Hi, my name's Amber Crimmings. I'm a curator, and here in Deep Ellum today, we're going to take a tour of all the murals that Joe Iurato did. Joe Iurato is an artist based out of New Jersey. He's a street artist who brings community and heartwarming images into urban environments. He does stencil work with his spray paint, and then he cuts them out and insets them into multiple spaces throughout cities all over the world. And we're lucky enough to have a bunch of his pieces here in Deep Ellum. And here we take a look at our first mural on our tour. This is a beautiful piece of Robert Johnson. This showcases his wonderful stencil work. Over 5 different tones are in this, and what's really great is for each one, Joe hand cuts a separate stencil for each color value that's in these pieces. I love this because it's inset and tucked around the corner, so it's a beautiful Easter egg as you're walking into the Harlow area, and he just kind of jumps out at you. Not in a scary way, but in a relaxed, this is the Deep Ellum musician vibe way. Music is a really big element for Deep Ellum, and I really love how Joe Iurato especially took that to heart when he was picking his imagery when he decided to put pieces down on the streets here in our neighborhood. And what I love about this is while it's an anonymous musician, it's a great representation of the culture that we have here. That big Texas feel. We've got a bit of those tattoos and the big heavy jewelry, but then we've also got the beautiful guitar hanging off his hip. It's a really great image that kind of ties together that idea that this is that iconic music district that has been here for so many years in Dallas. And now let's take a look at our third mural. What I love about this one is now that we've come into the courtyard and we've already looked at the seasoned musicians on the outside of Harlow, when we come inside, we're now hit with this beautiful image of this childlike wonder and innocence of picking up a harmonica for the first time and making those notes, those sounds of music. I love how he captures that. Take a look at the eyes and the expression of wonder and anticipation and excitement, and it's a beautiful little Easter egg here to the left of the stairs as you're coming into the area. I love this piece, and I love how it's smaller and sitting down. You're not always thinking about street art being smaller and at those lower levels. This is another great way to look at the love of music here in Deep Ellum. Hidden within Harlow is this beautiful testament to Deep Ellum's rich history with the blues genre. I love how Joe took this piece and he worked it on top of a historic wall, working in with the message and the blues that was already there. This is a wonderful, beautiful piece that you don't expect to see until you're walking past and you see it peeking through the window and the bits of greenery. Nestled within the entryway of Venti is another wonderful image of a musician carrying a heavy piano on his back. This is a beautiful representation of the backbreaking work that musicians do in order to bring culture and entertainment to our community. I love how this also particularly showcases his meticulous stencil work. You can see all of these fantastic shapes that he hand cuts by hand, and then he also layers and paints on these walls. I also love how pieces like this kind of blend into the rich texture that was already here. See how they left the wall otherwise intact with all the layers of paint and time on them. I love how his pieces end up becoming blended with these, and they also in turn become a part of history moving this forward. What I particularly love about this piece is the location of it. What's really special about Joe is that he goes around and he scouts locations for his pieces. And that's a very personal and passionate experience for him. What I love again is that childlike exuberance being showcased in the urban environment, and that he also made sure that it connected with what was here in the area. We've got a couple trees and some bird nests and a little family of birds that lives here. I love how he tied that in with the exuberance of the child, and then also tied in the exuberance for arts and culture because he fit in one of Traveling Man's little birds. Another wonderful way to blend what he does with the communities that he brings his artwork to. Do you remember the mural that we looked at earlier over at Harlow? That little boy sitting on the edge of the steps playing the harmonica? We get to revisit that image here again outside of Truth and Alibi. They have a facade that's the Deep Ellum Candy Company, and he took inspiration from this in taking that little boy and pulling him over here and putting lollipops in his pocket. What I love about Joe's pieces is that they're kind of a representation of childhood memories. You know, when you're walking down the street and you think about a piece of candy that you used to love when you were a kid, and you get that heartwarming feeling, that's what Joe Iurato is. And it's a really great thing to be able to have so many of his images here in our community in Deep Ellum. The mischievousness of Joe Iurato makes another striking impact on the streets here in Deep Ellum with our third iteration of his imagery of this small boy that's been throughout our streets. He's got the harmonica in his hand still, most likely because he's been walking around with it in his back pocket, influenced and inspired by the musicians and the rich history and tradition that we have here in Deep Ellum in our community. And here we have another whimsical image by Joe Iurato on the side of Truth and Alibi. We've got this kid scaling the side of the wall, wearing a hat backwards on his head, showcasing one of the logos from our local businesses, Deep Ellum Art Company, a logo that I created, so that makes it super fun to have that added in there. And he's got his guitar slung off his back and his cat in his backpack. You know, this kid is going on some adventures, and that's a really fun, whimsical twist to be able to add into the environment. Because as you're walking through the parking lot, you're not expecting to see a kid scaling the side of the wall, so it makes you do a double take. And that's what's really great about his imagery, because he takes these images and he creates these double takes. He creates these connections with childhood memories in urban environments, and that's something that's truly special. Here we are on the back side of Canton Hall, taking a look at another one of Joe's murals here. This is featuring a musician. His name is Sean James. It's one of Joe's favorite musicians. What I love about this piece is how he had to actually create this window frame here so that it looks like you're coming upon a musician playing on the inside of the building. He took this black surface and he made sure that he aged it. This is keeping in step with how he works his imagery into urban environments. This is another fantastic example of his stencil cut work and of all the different tones that he uses to create a realistic, well-rounded image. Here at the Bomb Factory in Deep Ellum, Joe gave us an image of hope. This is a beautiful image showcasing the young buskers that we see all over entertainment districts throughout the United States, showing that sense of youthful exuberance and that sense of hope and that raw creativity that musicians have as they're beginning on their journeys. I love especially that they look upwards to the greats by wearing them on their shirts. Pantera, established in Arlington, Stevie Ray Vaughan here in Dallas, and the message of the future is unwritten, meaning anything is possible, which is amazing on a venue like the Bomb Factory where we have large names come into Deep Ellum and perform for everyone. I love Joe's messages and how he seats these in to the elements and makes sure that they tell a story of not only their paths, but also the path of the community that they're seated within. Thank you so much for walking with me today. You know, Deep Ellum has a lot of amazing things to see and experience. Joe Iurato is kind of like our own Banksy. What I particularly love about him is that he took the time to get to know and to ask questions about our local community, our people, our businesses. He made sure that his work was something that reflected our story, which is really amazing when it comes to street artists. Those are the types that I really love the most, the ones that make sure they're trying to tell the story of the communities that they're in. And if you'd like to get to know other Deep Ellum heroes, make sure you follow Deep Ellum 100 and see and hear other stories of other amazing people right here in our community.